Good evening. I am Ben Tsujimoto. I cover Buffalo Public Schools for the Buffalo News. I am pleased to be the moderator for tonight's candidate forum. These 6 candidates are vying for 3 at-large seats on the Buffalo Board of Education. At-large board members serve 5-year terms. Tonight's event is co-sponsored by the Buffalo Parent-Teacher Organization, the League of Women Voters, and these other organizations: the Clean Air Coalition, Community Health Worker Parent Association, Justice for Migrant Families, Most Valuable Parents of Buffalo, Multilingual Education Advisory Committee, New York Civil Liberties Union, Our City Action Buffalo, Partnership for the Public Good, and Voice Buffalo. The forum is being conducted following the rules of the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan organization that never endorses or supports candidates or political parties. It encourages informed and active participation by citizens in government. The League also works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Here are the ground rules for tonight. Presentations by candidates should be strictly confined to issues and not personalities. The order of opening statements has been determined by the candidates' draw for position this evening. Election material is not permitted in the meeting room. A table outside of the room has been provided for this purpose. The event will end at 8:45 p.m. The League of Women Voters and the Buffalo Parent-Teacher Organization are recording the event tonight, and they will select the best recording to share in its entirety on their websites and on YouTube. Only licensed media, including TV, radio, and newspapers, are entitled to air a portion of the recording, in keeping with the Federal Communication Commission, or FCC, regulations. All others who air this recording may do so only in its entirety. No one is permitted to publicly display edited footage in any manner. We request that audience members turn off their cell phones at this time and keep them turned off throughout the event. We also request that you refrain from applause until the forum is completed. We want to provide candidates with the greatest amount of time to respond to the audience's questions. Here's the format for tonight's forum. Samantha White and Janet Goodsell are our timekeepers and will now demonstrate their actions. They'll raise a green paddle when the speaker has 1 minute left, a yellow paddle when there are 15 seconds left, and a red stop paddle when time has expired. The candidates are expected to stop after completing the sentence being spoken at the time. For opening statements, each candidate shall have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Biographical sketches and a platform outline are usually presented. For audience questions, or questions coming from the audience, each candidate shall have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. I will be asking written questions submitted in advance and questions by the members of the live audience. Timothy Priano will screen questions for vulgarity, profanity, appropriateness, and redundancy. Questions must be directed to all candidates. Tonight's co-sponsors will distribute and collect cards and pencils for your use to write questions, and they'll take questions to Timothy Priano. Questions will be asked of candidates in rotating order. For closing statements, each candidate shall be allowed 2 minutes for their closing statement, and it's generally summarizing their thoughts or reiterating points brought forth during this meeting. The forum is designed to be a dialogue between co-sponsors, the audience, and candidates. It is not a debate. I will announce each candidate's name only for the opening statements. I will be happy to repeat any question if you need me to when it's your turn to respond. We can move to the next person to respond without any introduction. When a new question is asked, we will move to the next candidate to the left to be the first person to answer. So in other words, there'll be a rotation to who answers first for the questions. Candidates will give their concluding statements in reverse order from the opening statements. Closing statements will begin at 8:30 p.m. Now, we will begin our opening statements with Razia Hill.
Hello, my name is Razia Hill, and I'm running for Buffalo Public Schools at large. I am a product of Buffalo Public Schools. I'm born and raised in Buffalo. I work in a nonprofit space, providing basic needs to underserved families. I'm excited to be here and excited to hear from the community what you are looking for out of candidates and give my point of view, but most importantly, hear your point of view. I believe that I bring a community building space, and that is the work that I've been doing for the last 8 years, and that's the energy that I intend to bring. I know that children need access to services, but in addition, so do their entire families. And I genuinely believe that I would bring that type of energy to the board should I be elected. I think that everyone up here is very capable, and I believe that we all would bring some energy to the board that could be utilized, but hopefully I do win your support here this evening, and thank you for your time.
Our next candidate is Adriana Zolich.
Good evening. Thank you, League of Women Voters, Buffalo Parent-Teacher Organizations, and all partnering organizations, and for everyone that came out today. I'm Adriana, a candidate in this at-large Board of Education race. I'm a proud mom. 3 of my children are current Buffalo Public Schools students, and 1 is a graduate. My daughter relies on a wheelchair, and I have navigated the complex special education system. This experience has propelled me to take on leadership roles to work for educational justice within the Buffalo Public Schools. I'm a parent advocate of the BPTO at Makowski, co-chair of the Special Education Parents Advisory Committee, CPAC, and prior to this, I earned a law degree at UB, where I also served as co-director of the Human Rights Center and advocated for asylum seekers and refugees at Journey's End. My priority is ensuring that all students have access to a quality, equitable education. I have witnessed firsthand inequality between buildings and a disconnect between central office and schools. I want to bridge these gaps and build stronger relationships in the district. When we support students with extra needs, the entire classroom benefits. It is easier for the teacher to focus on the entire class and teach. Having paraprofessionals benefits the entire classroom. I want every student of all abilities to get what they need to succeed. I'm committed to a vision for BPS where we dream bigger for student success and their bright futures so that all students can flourish. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Ed Spidell.
Hello, I'm Edward Spidell. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I was born and raised in Buffalo. I come from a family of 7 children. I'm a product of the Buffalo Public Schools. I attended School 27 in South Buffalo, Hillary Park Academy. I went on to School 8 follow through, and for my 8th grade year, I graduated from the Science Magnet, first ever graduating class from School 59. I'm a proud graduate of South Park High School, class of 87. In September of 87, I joined the U.S. Army. I honorably discharged the U.S. Army in May of 1991. After that, I went into 25 years of retail. So I got experience in hiring, interviewing, profit and loss statements, budgets. Shortly during that time, I met my beautiful wife, Amy, and we had 4 beautiful children, Caitlin, Edward, Danielle, and John. Caitlin attended Da Vinci High School and went on to Duville University, graduated. She is currently a nurse at Sisters Hospital, RN. Edward graduated from Olmsted 156. Daniel graduated from South Park 1 year early. Daniel is the 3rd generation of Spideouts to graduate from South Park High School. We've lived our lives in Buffalo. John, my youngest, is a current student at 156 in the autism program. Both John and Edward have autism, so that's where why I'm here tonight. My mother is a graduate of Kensington High School, so we have 2 generations of families graduated from Kensington High School. And tonight I'll prove to you why I'll be the best candidate. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Larry Scott.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the BPTO and League of Women Voters and all the organizations for hosting this event tonight. Thank you to Ben for moderating, for everybody being here. It's great to also see many of our youth in the audience. I'm Larry Scott, proud father of 2 Buffalo Public School students. I'm a school psychologist in the Kenmore Tonawanda School District working with middle school youth. I'm also a baseball coach in the Hurdle North Park Youth Baseball and Softball League. I serve on the New York State School Boards Association Voting Delegates Committee, and I also represent on the Resolutions Committee, the Conference of Big Five City School Districts. Since being on the board, I have passed or introduced and passed several resolutions in regards to gun violence, harassment and bullying, after-school programming, safe passage of students to and from school, and standardized testing. As Vice President of Student Achievement, I have successfully advocated for an increase of staffing in reading and mental health. I also championed the initiation of our 3-year-old preschool programs through Say Yes Buffalo Little Scholars, which now has 8 classrooms in 8 different buildings across the city. Since 2021, while I've served on the board with my colleagues, we have passed 10 collective bargaining units, contracts with our collective bargaining units. All of our collective bargaining units are now under contract. That's unprecedented. I have made sure to understand the needs of our students visiting schools across the city. By the end of my first term, I hope to have visited every single building in some capacity. And as a BPS parent, as an educator, I feel that I am best positioned to understand the needs, the values, and vision of our staff, our students, and families. And I look forward to the conversation tonight and moving forward on the Board of Election and re-elected.
Our next candidate is Terrence Bird.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to sincerely thank everyone for spending this evening with us and learning more about education, knowing more about the candidates that sit here in this forum. My name is Terrence Bird, and I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters, Buffalo Teachers Organization, Parent Teachers Organization, other partners that's here, Voice Buffalo, Clean Air, that was mentioned, and several others. My heart and passion is for the school, our schools and our children here in the city of Buffalo. I dedicated my life to help serve the city and our children and make better choices for our children, as far as education, as far as mental health, as far as, and also dealing with everyday problems that this city it gives. You know, it's real compassionate for me because I'm really the most qualified candidate here at this forum. And I'll explain a couple of reasons why. I was educated here in the Buffalo Public Schools, so my heart goes out to our children and my life goes to these children. I was a child care counselor with Baker Hall. I was also an officer, parole and probation officer. So I see where our kids are going if we don't have good leadership here on the board, if we don't put good programs together to try to create some construction for our kids and work with our community partners with this. Also, I was a court officer, and I was the first ever African-American individual that was voted as a school board member at large here in the Buffalo Public Schools. So these things I cherish, and these things I take with me as the best candidate for this position. I'm also a religious person. I know Luke 24 says that they went out and looked for Jesus, and they said, "Are you the one who should look for another?" And I stick with this quote because I don't have a God complex or anything like that, but I would just like to say that my heart goes out to these children, and you're looking for someone who can viably work with our children in this community, and I hope I'm the candidate that you select again this year. For the last 5 years, thank you.
Our next candidate is Janita Everhart.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Janita Everhart. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. Thank you to the Buffalo Parent Organization and the League of Women Voters. I am born and raised in Buffalo, New York, educated at Buffalo Public Schools, graduated from Kensington High School. My background is in adult education and program design. That's what I got my master's in. I love programming. That is my passion. I have done programming for adult, children, and senior citizen population, successful programming and yoga and meditation, programming with the PINS and juvenile delinquent population. And right now I work in reentry, and I do programming with men coming straight from prison, learning life skills and learning how to integrate back into society. One of the most alarming things that I learned with working with these men is that a lot of them were in special education and had IEPs. My daughter is my main drag. She's autistic, and she was told that she should be institutionalized when she was young by a teacher. And I got her the diagnosis and the treatment that she needed. We moved all the way to Baltimore to get that. We came back here, and now she's 16 at City Honor. She plays 5 different instruments. She's my motivation. She is awesome. I really hope to be a part of this board. Everyone I've met on the board are great. I really appreciate the council and time we spent together, the trainings we've done together, and just look forward to learning more about the community too and what you need. Thank you.
Thank you for your introductions, and now we will move to the questions. They've been compiled by the co-sponsors and some members of the audience, so we have a nice, pretty wide breadth of questions to ask tonight. So the first question, we'll start with Razia Hill, and then we'll go to her left, just down the row. So, and remember, if you want the question repeated, feel free to ask, and I will repeat the question. But, so the first question, parents, students, and advocates have raised concerns about the practice of suspension in Buffalo Public Schools. What is your stance on using suspension to manage student behavior?
I don't believe that suspensions is a way to manage student behaviors, if I'm being honest. I believe that especially the way that it is set up right now takes children out of the classroom far too long. I believe that children benefit more from figuring out what in their lives are broken or needs assistance. And I think that when we put people in position to ask questions that are both probing, but in a loving way, that we can find ways to enrich children in that way. I believe that school suspensions only take children away from probably the only thing that they know as a steady in their lives. A lot of children are coming from home lives that we are not examining what is happening in their homes, and they need school. School is a respite for them, it's a respite for families. It might be the only place they get a meal or get access to love. And so I think that there should be other ways, other alternatives in place to get to the bottom of what children are seeking and hoping for. I do believe that there should be some type of reprimand if something is that intrusive to the classroom, but I think we should find more creative ways and more sensitive ways to get around that.
Buffalo Public Schools has a suspension problem. Our district leads the state in suspensions. We have to improve. There has to be a better way. I'd love for us to turn the numbers around and be a model. I think we can use our imagination and figure out ways to keep children in the classroom, to eliminate pre-K through 3rd grade suspensions. We had a kiddo last week, 2 turning 3, who was suspended for 2 weeks. For something questionable where you really could have used a developmentally appropriate learning, like it was a teaching opportunity instead of removing them from the classroom. I would love to see no more suspensions for nonviolent, low-level offenses like insubordination. It's unevenly applied. Students that are special needs, or Black or brown and low income are all much more likely to be suspended. We have implicit biases at work. There's an unevenness how suspensions are applied between schools, and we just have to turn that around.
Thank you. I'd like to start with suspensions in Buffalo are up 38%. year over year from September to September. We have a code of conduct that calls for restorative practices and alternative means to suspensions. We don't enforce it. We allow principals to suspend for things that aren't level 3. We need a system where every suspension is reviewed so that children are in school. Thank you. We also have no real alternative program. Our alternative program is failing every day because we don't support our children there. We don't have special ed children in the proper class settlement placement. So what happens is they get in a class with a teacher who's not trained for that student, and that student becomes a problem, which intends they get written up, they get suspended, they get sent home. If we place them in the proper classroom and we supported them with the proper resources, our suspension numbers would drop to near nothing. And New York State does have a recommendation, one of the candidates already mentioned, that we should consider those new rules, thank you, with no suspension over 20 days, no K-3 suspension, and we should have real dialogue with all parties, students, parents, district staff. Thank you.
So the district, in my opinion, has made investments in trying to reduce suspensions, and the data says so. In 2018, 2019, compared to that year and last school year, we had 1,300 fewer students that were suspended short-term. And our long-term suspensions also show the same type of pattern. I do, though, believe that suspension is not a solution. However, just not suspending a student is also not a solution. You need to have evidence-based alternatives. I used to work as an alternative suspension specialist in a special assignment in my school district that I work in. I did restorative circles. I ran a community service program, restitution. Real accountability that taught skills to our students when they were struggling. Resolved conflict, repaired harm. So we have made advancements in training. We've added mental health professionals in our schools to get to the root causes of the issues that our students are experiencing. It's a conversation that we need to continue to have and have the support of everybody, those in the community and families as well.
When I was an educator here in the Buffalo Public Schools, for over 5 years, I've never suspended one child from the Buffalo Public Schools. And let's just be clear that suspension should not be a practice in the Buffalo Public Schools. There's no place for it. And we need to find different ways to work with community partners, our children, our parents, to find ways to alleviate suspensions. We talk about long-term and short-term suspensions. And there's no difference in it because both of them leads to the school-to-prison pipeline, where our children are not inside the schools, they're at home, or they're on the streets, in places where trouble exists, and they come back and bring those elements back into the schools. So suspension is not that. Our district poured over $38 million into community programs that deal with mental health strategies, working with these families, restorative justice practices, mental health partners that come into the school, and these are the things that I've had supported the past 5 years. Also, with suspensions, we have to work with parents. We have to find a better way to communicate with parents. We need each and every one of you in this room to come help with this because as a district, it's very hard to call a parent, reach out to a parent on a consistent basis when the child is acting inappropriate inside the school. Also with suspensions, we gotta be aware of child behaviors and what's causing the elements for them to be suspended. We gotta work with our mental health partners, our teachers, and as a teacher, I knew each and every student that was in that classroom. I knew when they came in, their head was down, when they was working well, you can tell when something's going on. So having that communication with students is the best way we can go to move forward. Thank you.
So I would definitely like to see the practice of suspensions ended completely. I think there are great national models out there that can lead the way and teach us how to do that. We really have to think about the domino effect of suspensions on the family. The price of rent in this city does not match the jobs. And what happens if a family who is maybe the Alice population, who are working poor, they have to miss work in order to stay home. A lot of these jobs, they don't have PTO, and so that's the domino effect. Another thing is the mental health crisis that's going on right now, working with mental health providers, bringing them into the schools, and allowing them to work with families in order to figure out what the underlying causes of the behaviors are is very important. When I worked with the Alcohol Eve Opportunity Program, what we did was we provided wraparound resources. We need to find out what's going on inside the home in order for the kids to focus on school. It's a very simple and basic strategy. Another thing is my heart is all about programming, and the Montessori method is one of my favorite. When you follow, my daughter did the Greenspan, she's autistic, like I said earlier. When you follow the child's interests and you teach them off of that, you will be very successful. Thank you.
Responses to our next question will begin with Adriana Zulich. And we received a lot of questions tonight about suspension, so we do have a follow-up question on that topic. What steps would you take to reduce the racial disparities in Buffalo Public Schools' use of suspensions? Black students with disabilities are far more likely to be suspended in Buffalo Public Schools.
I think we have to look at, do we need some training, implicit bias training? You're going to find what you're looking for, and is there actually different behavior and kids are being punished unevenly, and why is that? And are we taking steps instead of just suspending first? So is there a developmentally appropriate response we can take? Have we called in parents to see what's going on? Is something going on at home and kids aren't just leaving that at the door, they're bringing it inside and having a struggle? Does the family need supports besides the student? I'm just getting different levels of involvement. Is the child in an appropriate classroom? Do they need more support? It shouldn't be suspend first, figure it out later. What can we do to make sure the child is staying in the classroom? And being aware of those disparities. Thank you.
Ben, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What steps would you take to reduce the racial disparities in Buffalo Public Schools' use of suspensions? For instance, Black students with disabilities are far more likely to be suspended in Buffalo Public Schools.
First step, which I mentioned in my previous answer, is there needs to be a system set up that every suspension is reviewed based on the fact that it's following the code of conduct. The second thing, and one of the things I brought to the district with being part of the policy board for training for teachers is training on disabilities. So we brought 10 things a child with autism wish you knew. Most adults do not understand the disabilities. I mean, I have 2 sons with autism, and every day you learn something new. We need to give them the tools to succeed. And if they understand the disabilities better, they'll deal with our students differently. If we have a checks and balance system, they'll deal with it. And if we force them to follow the code of conduct, there's actually a rule that says you must follow these steps before you suspend a student. And proper placement. And maybe we should look at who's suspending the most students and make sure they're getting some proper training. They're missing something if they can't have the patience to deal with some of our children. Thank you.
So first is back to what works. And I would continue to invest in our culturally and linguistically responsive initiatives in that department, My Brother's Keeper, as well as growing our own staff of color to be teaching and be in front of our students in our schools. In regards to, though, the disparity, which absolutely exists for students of color, when you look at the type of referrals, when these studies are done, often it's very subjective referrals, disrespect, non-compliance, frustration, where students of color are usually being suspended compared to white students. And that's what we need to better look at and make sure there is fairness, because we know at times when this does get looked into, there is a lack of fairness. Additionally, I think we need just to be sure that our schools are being culturally responsive. Within classrooms, in the hallways, everywhere that students are operating, that we are being culturally responsive to all of our students of color. And just back to the evidence-based practices that work. If we're sitting down, doing restorative circles, listening to our students, understanding their concerns, meeting their needs, we're going to see a decrease in all suspensions and especially hopefully going to see a reduction in that disparity.
Thank you. That's a great question. I'm gonna go back to the future and then to the past. The future is, as a court officer, I took police over 40,000 felony cases in open court, and all I had to deal with children that look like me, young men and women. With this, I see the future of our children if we don't deal with the suspension issue right now in our district. It's disparity. One thing you have to deal with the class sizes and make sure that we got small class sizes. That's something we work very hard for in this new teachers agreement that we did with the Buffalo Public Schools and the Buffalo Teacher Federation. So that helps out a lot. Mental health components that we pour a ton of money into as a district to make sure the children get the attention that they need for the class sizes. We also need to do some more different type of components. We need to train teachers, of course, and the code of conduct, which I spent 2 summers working on to change so that we can have a better narrative for our children. But we need to bring more sports into our district as a modified sports program that I've been working on, so they can have more activity, more things to do to alleviate them from suspension. We also got to work on our arts and music programs in the Buffalo schools and our elementary programs, start working with our children so they can do other things that their mindset, not on suspension or bad behaviors, but to do good things in the school, look forward to coming to school. So these are the things that we've been working on as a board and I've been working on as an individual. And also the last thing I'd like to say is after school programs. We need these for our children. They need a place to go after school. They need a place they can come to. The city of Buffalo has provided this for our children. So as a district, we work very hard to try to bring these elements here from the Buffalo Public Schools. Thank you.
Ben, can you repeat the question?
Sure. What steps would you take to reduce the racial disparities in Buffalo Public Schools' use of suspensions? Black students with disabilities are far more likely to be suspended in Buffalo Public Schools.
Yeah, I really think it's a matter of training. It is also a matter of representation and understanding Black students. This problem of suspending Black and brown students, and especially Black and brown special needs students, is also a national issue. Like I said, I work in reentry and I see it all the time. The house that I run, we have about 30% mental health residents. These residents are lacking in services, and it started way in school. They are the kids who were suspended. So what steps I would like to take is to work with the communities who understand, to bring in likeness, to bring in groups to support the kids, look at the policy, get teachers who represent the kids, Black and brown kids. I heard a statistic that in some areas or some schools, the kids are 80% Black and brown, the teachers are matching that. And it's just not healthy, not that white teachers can't teach Black and brown kids, but you need that representation, you need that likeness. And you also, you need to be able to understand, get the mental health and understand where that child is coming from. And link with the parents too, link with the families. Parents know best. They know their child best. When my child was diagnosed, everybody told me I didn't know.
I think we should break down some of the stigmas associated with getting your child tested to find out what is wrong. A lot of times parents are not taking their children for ASQs or for specific testing to see how they are developing, and in turn, children are going undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, and I think that that is also something that will help in the classroom if a parent knows what their child is actually going through. In addition, I think that we definitely need more cultural competence, and we need more cultural representation inside of the classroom so that children can, in fact, see themselves from a day-to-day basis. I think that that also helps. Just in general, though we are a city of good neighbors, we are a city of segregation as well. And there are a lot of things, not only in the school system, but in the city that are broken. And a lot of that trickles into the classroom, it trickles into the biases that sometimes teachers are applying to the way that they reprimand. And I just believe that we can really take down the stigma associated with getting your child tested and finding out exactly what's wrong with them. I think that that in turn will allow parents to become more empowered, and we will see those shifts inside the classroom as well.
For our next question, Ed Spidell will start with the responses. The question is, what plans do you have to stop violence in Buffalo Public Schools?
Ben, thank you for the question. We're going to need to use our partners in the community. For instance, over the summer, I'm the president of Gloria Parks Community Center. Our not-for-profit partnered with MVP, Most Valuable Parents, and we held a summer-long basketball league where 75 of our young youth played basketball every Saturday. We would start at like 2 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock, we were begging them to leave. They didn't want to leave. We need to bring in the experts. Our community partners are experts in this. You know, the community health workers do a great job. MVP, we got Dina Thompson and Erie County Restorative Justice. We have many different groups in the city. We need to partner with them, and we need to probably consider keeping our school buildings open to 7 or 8 o'clock at night. We used to do it back in the 70s when I was in school, and I think it's time to start doing that again. There are not community centers in every community. There's not a place for everybody to hang out. So that will be one of the things I'll be advocating for as a new board member. Thank you.
First, just to piggyback on that, I completely agree with Mr. Spidell that our schools need to be more accessible. They are hubs of our communities. They should be open more. They should be providing opportunities and experiences for our students beyond just Saturday academies, which we're doing now, which are very successful. Violence in communities in our schools is multifaceted. So approaches to it must also be multifaceted. There's no quick, easy solutions to it. And it takes partnerships. One of the things that I did right after the very first violent incident at McKinley High School was have a resolution passed to re-engage with our community-based organizations. At the time, those partnerships had been shut off because of COVID-19, and we needed to restore those because we, as educators in our schools, can only do so much. We need the help of critical community-based organizations like the Peacemakers. We reestablished a partnership with them, being around our schools, in our schools, working directly with our students. We've added the weapons detection systems. We've considerably added security in our schools. The mental health professionals, mental health clinics that are operated by Say Yes Buffalo. Again, multifaceted. And I think just lastly, it needs to be a balance between structure, accountability, and nurturing. Understanding the needs of our students, but also providing supervision and structure to make sure that our schools are safe.
Thank you. Plans to stop the violence in the Buffalo Public Schools. It's going to take a community effort. It's going to take all of us, each and every one of you, your family, your neighbors. This is going to take a community effort. And as a former officer, I do not believe that policing is the answer. I do not believe it's going to take community values. It's going to take our values to work together. Also, one of the things I've done was work with the district to file a social media lawsuit against our social media giants that's provoking the violence that's in our schools. This is huge. It's a $5 billion lawsuit right now in the city. We work with Seattle to try to stop and bring in more services for our children to stop the violence that's going on. Also, we work with community groups like the Peacemakers, SNUG, and also Peacemakers, who the city of Buffalo was supposed to fund, they did not fund. Work with this school district right here to help fund the Peacemaker with Pastor Giles so that we can have more enforcement and love, not just support, but love at our schools, at our bus stations, on our trains, and on the buses also, so that we can have a relationship with our kids. That helps stop violence. Also, Friends for Better Buffalo, my organization that we founded, my wife and I, Nina, and we put this together. And each year we give out tons of food to families of need, and most of them rest in the Buffalo Public Schools. We get a list of children, and we go out and minister to these children. We talk to these children. This here is a passion. It's something that you can't just put in a text and say, this is how it's going to be done. We got to work together on this. Thank you.
So my plans include talking to parents. We have to get parents involved. Community groups are amazing, especially SNUG and Stop the Violence, but we need to get the attention of the parents. Something that they did with my daughter in early intervention was called carryover. And so that's basically whatever is done at school needs to be done at home, and that's the only way she would be successful. That is the only way she was successful. When we catch the attention of the parents and we get the parents involved in what's going on at school, parent engagement groups, letting the parents know that this is their community. I'm sorry, I get distracted when I should put the thing up. This is their community, and that this is their school and their kid belongs there. And yeah, just getting parent buy-in. It starts with parent buy-in because you go into a lot of community centers and the kids aren't there. And so it really starts with the parents getting involved. And so that would be my plan. That would be trying to advocate and create spaces for parents to feel welcome to come in and ask questions about their kids, what's going on with their kids, and how they can get better involved and do the same things that they do at school at home.
I think everybody made really amazing points. Violence is a community issue, so it does require a community approach, and so I agree with everything that has been said already. I also believe that we do need to have schools open longer, but we also need programming in those schools, and we need to be creative about what children are looking for and gearing them towards that. I'm an 80s baby, not in the 70s, but I remember at school we had things to do. We had home ec, we had wood shop, we had things to do where we could find additional passions, whether you like music or art, and making sure when the schools are open that they're open with some type of specific purpose as well, not just leaving the doors open and everybody roaming the halls, but finding things that children are engaging in and desiring to do will keep them in the school and engaged. And even if you could just keep some children at school and give them an opportunity, that's better than letting everybody just fall by the wayside. Violence, again, is a community issue. We cannot individually address it unless we address all the social determinants of health that lead to violence. It is not just that people want to go around beating on each other. I'm a firm believer that there are some underlying issues that we should probably start to examine as community, and I think we will see those shifts in violence in schools.
Instead of responding after the violence has happened, we really need to look into prevention and be proactive. The city of Buffalo is keeping some community centers open until 10 o'clock. I think that's a good start. There are community groups doing good work. We've mentioned MVP. I know one of their challenges is finding a space that will be open. So maybe a school would be a great venue. Russell Kingsbury with Youth Advantage, Willie Hutch. So there's a lot of resources out there, and we can tap into that, lean into groups doing the good work. I think we can also speak with students. The unfortunate incident earlier this year there was a previous run-in over the summer. So did anybody, did we mitigate something happen again? Did we resolve that? Or was it just waiting until we went back to school to finish up what had been started? So school should be a safe place. I mean, anxiety is through the roof if you're afraid for your physical well-being.
Responses to our next question will begin with Larry Scott. And that question is, if elected, how will you advocate for more after-school opportunities within the school system, given the current budget?
That's a great question, and you mentioned the budget, and that is sometimes a barrier. We really invested our federal funding into robust summer school programming and after-school programming. We restarted transportation for those after-school programs with our 3-tiered bell system. Unfortunately, we are incurring some reductions in our after-school programming. It's something that ultimately comes down to funding and staffing. Some of the issue we had was being able to find enough school staff last year, as well as our community-based organizations, those partners that are providing the programs, having enough staff to staff programs for our students. So it really comes down to funding, more investment in being able to provide these programs, keeping our schools open, and providing our students a range of opportunities. One thing that I'd like to see different that I talk about with our transportation challenges is not so much having students where they attend their schools, staying after school in those schools that they attend, because we have schools that are bused across the city. But opening up all of our, or at least schools in critical areas, so that when they get home, their school is open and they can walk to their school in their neighborhood to be provided those after-school programs and opportunities.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. If elected, how will you advocate for more after-school opportunities within the school system, given the current budget?
We have about $171 million in the general fund that we need to allocate for after-school programs. We've been working very hard as a board, and we're working very hard as a board to keep our schools open and our buildings open. There's a lot of things that has to happen. We have to have a custodian in the building to keep them open. I was mentioned earlier about Buffalo's not having our centers open for our children, which really keep our kids on the streets. So we have to find different outlets and different ways to keep these facilities open. We have to work with our community partners. And I work strongly, and I said this, I think that community partners should be in every school in the city of Buffalo. We should have a community partner in that school that dedicated their lives to help our children, give our children arts, craft, music, playtime, social time, interaction with one another that our kids need after this COVID virus that we went through. So I would like to dedicate our money and have a pot of money that's set aside to keep our schools open and work with each and every community partner that we have. We have enough in the city of Buffalo that can work with 83 of our schools here in the city of Buffalo, and also work with our charter partners because they have facilities open that can keep kids in the neighborhood that we may not have at school. So it's a community effort we have to do. It's not just us, it has to be everyone. Thank you.
So if elected, I think the first thing I would look at is where's the fat? In every budget, there's always extra left over at the end of the year that goes unused. There's also a lot in the budget that is used improperly or not allocated to the right places. So I think we can start there and looking at how we can fund after-school programs, maybe fund the staff of after-school programs, fund community centers to help them stay open even later in certain communities. So I think hearing that $171 million in the general fund is exciting. That means that there is opportunity, that there is a way to get these after-school programs funded and to bring in better programming and programming that parents and students feel is effective.
After school, before school care, after school care, summer programming is all super important to the development of children. It gives them a chance to, again, discover what they like, So that should be paramount. So this is gonna be possibly the most unpopular thing, hopefully, that I say here, is that maybe we should look at the budget again and look at where the funds are going so that we can examine why we don't have enough money to really make that a priority. And I believe that, again, if staffing is an issue, then maybe we look at how funding, again, is allocated for staffing so that if that's an issue, we address that issue. Because children are the whole reason that there is a school board and why we're here. I mean, that is the purpose. So again, I believe that we should probably look at the budget and just really examine where the funds are going, that they're not available for things that enrich children. That they're not available and that the programming that's being cut are arts and music, and that the schools that are already under-resourced, why don't we set aside money to paint the walls? Because again, it's also what you come into every day. I mean, if you're coming into a very dismal space, it's going to affect how you are acting in that space. If you're in a hot school and there's no air conditioning, it's going to affect your behaviors. After school should be available because we should look at what's going on in the budget and what is taking away from children's access to those types of programs.
We had a little surprise that a day was being taken away at the beginning of the school year. And at that point, it's already too late for parents to find an extra day. In the spring, you really have to look for after-school care. So I would like to change notice about things like that, but we do need to reprioritize. If after school, if enrichment classes reflect the values of our community, we have to figure out how to make that work. Tried to think of some, I didn't know about the general fund amount. One idea I had was to reduce due process violations so we can save money, and maybe that money can be used to go towards something else. I have asked the city of Buffalo for the past 15 years, they've given the same amount to the Buffalo Public Schools, I believe 70 million. Rochester, a comparable school district, gives 129 million. We could do a lot with that much more money. But yeah, relook at it and reprioritize, so it's for the children first.
The after-school program is not a money problem. It's a systematic problem. We just negotiated, district negotiated 10 new contracts with 10 new unions last year. Maybe we should have considered one of our asks to have the teachers available for summer school and after school. You know, that's what a bargaining is. You ask for something, they ask for something in return. We should have done that. There are 4 not-for-profit agencies in the city of Buffalo who qualified this year for the LEAPS program. Go to your school, ask your principal which program you're attached to, and you can go to Gloria Day Parks, I think the Bell Center, and I don't know the other 2 names. But there are programs that are 5 days a week, and if elected, I will not approve any budget that does not have 5 days of after-school program. Thank you.
Responses to the next question will be led off by Terrence Hurd. The question is, what efforts will you support to make sure the BPS wellness policy is implemented and that student health and wellness is supported across Buffalo Public Schools?
That's also a great question. Health and wellness is the most important thing for our children, our teachers, our staff, our administration. Health and wellness is, when we talk about health and wellness in our district, how we support it. Of course, we have to support it financially. Everything has to be supported financially. And another way to support health and wellness is through our community partners. Other ways is what we do when we go to Albany. Every year for the past 5 years, we've been to Albany and going to meetings with the governor. We meet with the Big Five and our county legislators and senators about bringing more programs to our schools to support health and wellness. You see, it has to come from Albany, it has to come from above, that we can allocate funds, and we have to fight for funds for our kids. It's strange that we have to fight for it, because the city of Buffalo has been redlined, to which our suburban districts receive more money allocated per student than Buffalo schools do per student. So then health and wellness, and we use a large amount of our budget maintaining school buildings and so if we talk about health and wellness, we really need to focus on getting more money allocated, specifically earmarked for health and wellness for our children, and not just for the children, it's the whole home concept where we can work with the entire family, and that's the most important piece of it. Thank you.
So I'm very excited to see what the Buffalo public school system has been doing with health and wellness over the years. My daughter comes home talking about what she can and what she can't eat, what's not good for her. I think that's really cute. Teaching me about healthy balance and things like that. I also think it's great to bring in community partners. I know yogis in service were in the schools for a short period of time. I think that was really great. I studied yoga as a yoga teacher, to become a yoga teacher with them, with them, and that was really great. Another thing is, I'm glad that the commissary was definitely finally decided on. Providing healthy meals and healthy food in schools is really good. Like I said, my daughter goes to City Honors, so their lunch spread is great, but then you go to other schools and it's not so great. So I think equity in that department is very important. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Health and wellness is just what we really should focus on in the community as well. Again, if you are not healthy, your household is not healthy, then it trickles down to your children. If you're not eating healthy, your children aren't eating healthy. So to the point of making sure that the whole family is able to benefit from health and wellness, that children are, again, coming home with access to resources around healthy options and alternatives, I think that's a really great step in the right direction. I think there should be more funding put towards mental health counseling in the school, making sure that it can be impactful, that it is consistent for families and for children to take part in. Again, thinking of other ways that children can stay healthy, both mentally and physically, will bolster healthier communities at large. And again, putting money where we want to see shifts and changes. There won't be shifts and changes if we don't fund them properly. Children are in school up to 8 hours a day, and I think it's important to focus on what we are feeding them in their body and in their mind in those 8 hours. Children spend 9 months out of 12 in schools, and we have an opportunity to consider how we examine health and wellness in a way that, again, is beneficial to the entire family, and the teachers can be involved in that as well by maybe taking some walking breaks. I don't know. There's plenty of creative ways that we can think about bringing health and wellness.
We need more social workers in our schools. I was part of the SBMT budget process in one of my kids' schools this year, and we have impossible decisions to make. It was, do we keep a literacy coach? Do we get rid of half a social worker? We have one school psychologist and 1.5 social workers for the entire building. I don't know that they have enough time to meet with every student in the building. It seems impossible. So we do need more social workers in our schools that's looking upstream, identifying kids that might need help and might need more resources before it becomes a problem. We do have an initiative. We partner with Feed More at our school. So there happens to be food insecurity. So every Friday, our Pell packs book bags. My daughter brings home canned vegetables, some rice, some pasta. So they're taking care of students and their families over the weekend. We do seem to have recess. Maybe we can expand that. But we should look at the whole child.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite questions tonight. So as the president of the District Parent Coordinating Council and a member of Parent Congress, That has been one of our focuses over the last couple of years. We can show the benefit of a wellness team that's operated properly. Look at our schools, City Honors, 45, Olmsted, just a few examples of schools that have a wellness policy that's run properly, and they have the lowest suspension rates, they have great attendance, they're working on the whole family through the wellness party policy. We also have a parent group, community health workers through the Connect of Western New York, I said it right, I hope. They're experts in this. Jessica Bauer actually helped write this policy, and we've recommended that we use the community health workers to serve on wellness teams in the building. And it's $0 in the school to have a wellness team. It's about bringing everybody in the building together to solve your problems in the building. And it's not led by the principal or the assistant principal, it's led by a parent, a teacher, and a student. Thank you.
So I agree with everything that's been said, along with ensuring that we have a health and wellness policy that's being implemented. We have teams in our schools that are meeting and functioning, and a district team that's functioning. The food commissary is something that I'm very proud that we finally approved. Hopefully we'll be breaking ground on it soon. It is extremely important to get that up and running, because some of our schools don't have their own kitchens, and that's what they rely on to have good, healthy food to eat. Aside from food, I want to talk about activity. I am a huge proponent of recess, having that built into the school day regularly, and not just on a device. Being active, getting outside. I'm going to talk about one thing I did and one thing I want to do. So one thing I did at School 81 when my boys were there, there was a space that was just kind of left without grass from the joint reconstruction project. And I worked with staff to make sure that they cleared out all the rocks and stones so that they could plant fresh grass, and then teachers could take their kids out there for recess. Phys ed classes could use that space. And I just had the principal very recently thank me again for the opportunities that space is now providing to our students. Last thing I want to do, I'm a baseball guy. It's growing at Hurdle North Park Baseball League, and I want to grow it in Buffalo Public Schools. I want to see modified baseball. I want to see more JV baseball programs, getting our students involved in baseball.
Responses to the next question will be led off by Janita Everhart. The question is, policy regarding student cell phone use is a hot topic right now. What do you think is the best approach?
I get in trouble every time I answer this question. Unfortunately, we are never going back. Technology is here. I believe we need to learn how to teach through it. Of course, there needs to be restrictions. Kids can't sit in their classrooms with their cell phones all day. I believe it should be used as a tool. I think it should be written into policy. I don't think we're going backwards with technology. These kids are smarter than us in a lot of things, especially technology. Maybe get some programming into the schools to where we can figure out how they can learn how to do things on the computer, like on the phones, like fix the phones. I know there's some AI programs that are really helpful for students. They know so much about these things, it doesn't make sense to go backwards and try to take it away. But there should be restriction, definitely.
I know that as an adult, I'm in business meetings and there's adults who can't stay off their phones. So let's be clear that it's not necessarily a problem with just children. Again, there are adults who are unable to unplug from technology. So to Janita's point, and I think that she makes and raises a great point that we use that we find educational tools that are accessible on the phone that allow children to, if there might be a use of the hand thing. I mean, every child is not always properly diagnosed, again, as I was saying earlier, and sometimes children like to have things in their hand. It may not be a matter of defiance, it could just be neurodivergence. And so, like, maybe working on how to think about not making the cell phone the enemy, which I think would also probably make it more exciting to have it. It's like you're bucking this authority. So again, finding a way to utilize that app, something that will allow children to itch the urge every so often, or you take them away from everybody, teachers included.
I've seen one thing that works great, and then yesterday we heard about an initiative. I haven't seen it, but another teacher does. So my son's science teacher in high school has little pockets in the front, like a little shoe thing. And when the kids come in, they put their phone right there, so they're not using it during class. They'll have it for lunch and recess and whatever. Oh, sorry. And so putting it, so they have their phone, I mean, it's their property. Parents have purchased it for them and made a decision that their child can have a phone responsibly. And then another way a teacher does it is has chargers in the back of the classroom. So the kids come in, charge their phones while they're learning. Yeah, we don't want them playing with it during school, but I would not support taking it away altogether.
First step would be to ask the students what's the best way to get them off their devices. Let's have real meetings with all the parties, parents, teachers, students, principals, everybody, and work on it. Last month I was at School 33, they had a veteran, interview a veteran, so I volunteered, and the 8th grade student there, I said, how do you like the school? I love it. I go, where's your cell phone? She goes, we have to put it up every day. I go, how do you feel about that? She goes, I got used to it. It's sort of normal now. I think it starts with training our youngest students that they don't need to have their cell phones. Well, what's going to happen if we don't act as a community first, the governor's going to pass a law and take it out of our hands. So I recommend that we meet now, talk about it, bring all the parties, bring the teachers. You know, the teachers need our students in the classroom paying attention, but let's find out what's going on. Let's ask them for their opinion. Let's ask the students for their opinion. Moms, dads, everyone. Thank you.
So my views may be a little bit differing than others on the stage. And I'm going to first start with saying that our students, every one of them now has access to a device. So they are exposed to technology separate from that phone. As a parent and an educator, I have seen firsthand how problematic phones are, social media can be. And I've seen it firsthand in schools. It causes a lot of peer issues. It causes a lot of distraction. It exasperates, maybe doesn't cause, but exasperates violence that happens in our schools. So it is my expectation as a parent that my children, when they attend school, that they're not on their phones during the day in their classrooms. I think I agree with Mr. Spidell in that this is something we need to hear more from parents, teachers, students as well, most importantly. But the truth is that children and adolescents have immature brains. Their prefrontal cortex is immature, making them prone to impulsive responses. And so we need to have regulation of devices like a phone that has immediate gratification. For musicals, performances, plays, sports, we don't expect them to have access to phones. There's a limit that they're not on their phones while they're doing that. And I think some of that same mentality should be applied to learning.
Well, my wife and I, we're General Motors. And so what we did one year before I became a board member was, I'm gonna say this quickly, because the time is transpired. What we did one year was bring Cadillac and Chevrolet to Burgard High School. They had a big forum, we brought the designers, they flew in from California, and it was a huge embarrassment because these designers, we walked them through the school, and we witnessed teachers inside the school, inside the classrooms on their cell phones, and the students on their cell phones, listening to music, and not even giving instruction. So this is some of the things that we work with, and why I ran for the school board was try to alleviate these things and bring principles to our classrooms. One thing we did was go to Albany and talk to Governor Kathy Hochul about cell phone usage and bring a new policy here in the city of Buffalo and across the state of New York. We also filed a $5 billion lawsuit against the social media giants that we talked about earlier. Those are some destructive things that we need to do and work together to pass this through. Another thing we did was that pocket thing that was mentioned earlier. That does not work because kids, they drop the phone inside the bag, the pocket when they go inside the school, but they got another phone in their pocket that they sneak through that they use for social media. So that doesn't work. That's proven. Also, the code of conduct. We work on the code of conduct to bring restrictions about cell phone usage inside our schools, and we got to hold our administrators accountable that if it's in one school that the kids can't use their cell phone, they got to be in all the schools. So we got to hold our administration accountable and our superintendent accountable on these principles. And the last thing we did, I have to stop. Okay, thank you.
Razia Hill will be the first to respond to this next question. The question is, what steps need to be taken to address the gap that continues to occur between graduation rates of English language learners and the district's overall rate?
We know that Buffalo is a very diverse community. It's become even more diverse in the recent years. And I think that should be examined a lot closer than it is. And I think it goes into, are we making things equitable for families who English is not their first language? And in doing so, and in finding equity, are we creating systems within the systems that would help to shore up some of the gaps that they might be facing, whether they're coming to the community while they're already in school, and so they're having to deal with the shift of culture from coming into Buffalo, learning the city, and trying to adapt to the school system. I think it's very important that we create equitable solutions that engage and involve students who are not speaking English as a first language, or students who might have identified needs, whether that be special needs. We need to personally just kind of work on how we address those type of circumstances. But it takes first a conversation associated. We need to start having conversations with those who English is not their first language and asking them what they feel like can offer them additional supports in that space.
This exact topic came up a couple times this past week. I was shocked to learn that the Hispanic graduation rate is 48, 49%, which that's 1 in 5 students are Hispanic students in this district, compared to like the 78, 79% graduation rate. I was told in a different context that there is no inequity between schools, but that is absolutely not true. There is such a difference in language access, and we need to do more to make sure that every student that needs it has it available in every school. At a board meeting, I heard a teacher say in her building, she did not know that students could get translation services for their exams in high school. But then other schools like Lafayette have figured that out. So your access to language shouldn't change depending on where you go. It shouldn't be luck. But I would love to see us close that gap and work with the community and work with students and families to do that.
From my conversations with principals, we're lacking the ability to support the students in every building. We don't have enough teachers. So the district recently, and I won't name the school to keep them out of trouble, recently dropped like 30 new students in a building that had no one there to teach the students. It's a placement problem. If you look at most of our problems in the district, it comes back to placement. We place our special ed kids in the wrong room. We place our English learning students in the wrong room. We don't give them enough supports. We don't support the teachers enough. We don't support the students enough. It's a huge problem. We need to bring in some experts in this field and talk to them. Dr. Caban works tirelessly to get the district to hire staff for the buildings, but there's not enough staff. Thank you.
So overall, we need to support where the Board of Regents is right now going, exploring multiple pathways towards graduation. Not all of our students are the same, and because of language, that should not be a barrier to you that prevents you from earning a Regents diploma and graduating. We saw, because of an exemption from Regent exams with the pandemic, we actually had an uptick in students that were English language learners receiving a diploma. Last year when the Regent exams came back, that's where we saw a big dip again. So clearly language is interfering with these students and being able to perform on these standardized assessments. So projects, presentations, performances, multiple ways that these students can demonstrate what they've learned and success. English language teachers, we have more and more families moving into Buffalo. We have so many different languages that are spoken from our students, and the need is growing. It's not slowing down, and we need to meet that need. The state comptroller recently cited Buffalo Public Schools and another school for not being able to provide adequate bilingual education. And the problem is we've tried. There's not enough bilingual teachers that are trained and certified through New York State in order for us to provide those bilingual programs. So we need the support from New York State to ensure that all of our English language learners are learning and graduating.
Can you read the question one more time?
Sure. What steps need to be taken to address the gap that continues to occur between graduation rates of English language learners and the district's overall rate?
Okay, thank you. This is something I brought up last night at our board meeting that we was there last night until 11:30. We talked about English language learners, and I brought up the issues about teachers calling me. And they had many teachers that called me and said they got no English language learners in their classrooms. They sit in their classrooms. It's the middle and the end of the school year. They don't know what to do because they can't speak a word of English. And also, they come from countries that don't have a written language. So how can we educate these individuals? We got to find more pathways to bring them into more classrooms that's comprised of the people from this language and bring in other supports for them so that they can learn English and they can be taught American ways. It's not just the language, it's cultural barriers also that we are faced with. So we got to deal with the cultural barriers. Also, I've been working with asylum seekers for the past 5 years that have been coming to New York State in this country through the Mayor Adams' office with the Jewish Center and Erie County Family Services and trying to find some resources for these individuals. We have other school districts around Buffalo and outside of Buffalo that stepped up to help accumulate some of these individuals and families that came over here, which accumulated over 27,000 people, and try to help them with these type of services. So these are economically disadvantaged people, just like us, economically disadvantaged, and we got to find more resources. We got to go to Albany again and keep fighting for more resources. If they're going to send them over here, we got to find a way to educate them, find a way to make them feel comfortable in our culture and in our city. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of which was said here tonight. I think what's really important is the multiple pathways diploma. My daughter's on that track right now. She's going to get her degree being autistic and not being able to take tests and do things that other kids can do. So she'll still get her diploma, but it'll be more tailored to her needs. I think that's a great idea. Another thing is bilingual curriculum. Looking at the curriculum, knowing what's on there and what can be translated over to the different languages, especially the most popular languages, I think is Bangladeshi and Spanish and some other ones. Another thing is, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's great to have sitting board members, you know so much. Yeah, the dropout rate, being able to, yeah, so bilingual curriculum, diploma track, and another thing, sorry, thank you.
This is likely our last question before closing statements. Adriana Zolich will be the first to respond to this. And this one came in a couple times that were submitted. Did all of you file your financial disclosure forms on time? Why or why not?
I did not. I apologize. I am mailing that tomorrow. I got my letter today. I'm a little inexperienced, and we're gonna make sure we file the next two in a timely fashion.
I absolutely filed my report on time. It said it must be postmarked on the 7th, and they received it on the 8th. Thank you.
I was the first to have mine received, so I did file it on time, but I want to add to this. Do I have the minute 30? It won't take that, I don't think, but we've switched now from a May election to a November election. However, it is still the district and state ed that oversees the school board election. It should, in my opinion, be shifted to the Board of Elections, locally and at the state level. There is almost no requirement with financial campaign finance reports, like other candidates have. So you can submit almost anything. It doesn't really have to be itemized, and it can lack a lot of information. And I think if we're going to really be accountable when we're overseeing a over $1 billion budget, I think there should be some expectations on how we're filing campaign finance reports and how they're transparent to the public. Because usually they're posted on the State Board of Elections website, but with school board candidates, they are not. They need to be requested for you to see them. So I look for changes in the state level to address that, so there's more accountability with campaign finance.
My answer is no. I didn't file on time. There was a change in the date because of the new school board election regulations, and filing will be done. But it's not mandatory that the board will file that report, but it's very important to our constituents and our people, our community that we do file. So that's not an issue. Some other things I just like to talk about since we have a little more time is some of the things that we've done here as school board members. We have school board member Paulette Woods here, Sharon Bell Cotman, and we also have Cindy McGetchen. So they came to help support tonight. So I thank them for coming out. And Jim McCosey's over here. I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't see you. Jennifer McCosey. There's so many things that we've done as a school board, and I'm just not going to speak for myself right now, but working the safe crosswalks. We talked about cell phones a little bit earlier. And with the safe crosswalks, we filed a resolution, worked with Councilman Bollinger, so that the kids, they're on their cell phone can cross streets. So what we do, we put large signage up now, and we're putting big crosswalk signs that you see us painted across the streets right now in the city of Buffalo. Those are some of the steps that we're taking so that people can recognize that this is a school zone. And we also push it out for the playgrounds also for safety measures. We work with the finance in our district. We work with so many different things, our music programs. We try to elevate our music programs. The Villa Maria College and Bluff State College. These are some of the things I've been working on as a board member. We've been bridging the gap between our schools and universities so that we can have more opportunities and better outcomes for our students. So these are just some of the other things that we work on also. Thank you.
So, no, I did not, but only because I had no financials. I had my fundraiser last night, so I did my entire campaign thus far on my own dime. So, but I will be filing. Thank you.
So that's a no. But quite honestly, I actually did it today. But to that point, like Janita said, I've been self-funding for the most part. We had a small fundraiser and kind of offset some costs, but I do understand the importance of timely filing. I'm just a novice in this space, and there are a lot of moving parts, and I don't want to use that in any way as an excuse. And kudos, Larry, for getting that in on time, and Ed as well, getting that postmarked. But yes, mine have gone on today.
It's time for closing statements in reverse order of the opening. So that means Janita Everhart will be the first to give her statement. I won't announce each person each time, but we'll move one person to the right until the closing statements have been completed.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Thank you again, Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization and League of Women Voters. Against my better judgment, I did not write a closing statement, but I do want you to know that being part of this community, the Buffalo Board of Education community, being born and raised here, being from a family of service, and understanding what that means, and always having my word when it comes to education, especially in the family and friends sector of my life. I've had a sibling drop out of high school and made sure she goes back. I have worked with the Liberty Partnership Program, the program that let me know that no matter where I was from, being from the east side of Buffalo with basically nothing, that I too can go to college, then actually working for the Liberty Partnership Program and doing their programming as a contractor for years, and also working with the Arthur O'Eve Opportunity Program, working with disadvantaged kids, letting them know that they too, no matter where they come from, can go to college, making sure that they have those wraparound services so they don't have to worry about things like rent, things like is the electricity on or not. So that way they, bus passes and transportations and all types of things, to just so that they can focus on those things. And so this is why I want to be on the board. I am an educator, born and raised. That's just who I am. My dad worked for the Buffalo Board of Education, and it's where I belong, and that's all I can really say right now. Thank you. Oh, I look forward to working with the community and learning more about your needs and wants, and how I can better support you as a new green board member who is ready for advice and ready to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. The visions and values of this community is very important as we move forward. And we take the time out to listen to each and every one of you, our community, to find out what's needed in our schools. This is some of the things that, speaking with our community partners, our parents, our teachers, our principals, administration, staff members, this is some things that was important. One thing they wanted was innovative classrooms. So I'm fighting right now for innovative classrooms in this district so that we can have multiple type resources for kids with different languages, and also have professors actually come teach our kids inside of our classrooms from colleges and universities. Recruitment of teachers, this is very important. So these are some things about me that I stand for. Hot lunches in every school, that's very important. And I'm looking to build that within our school district so that each and every child have hot lunches, working with this commissary also. Mental health curriculum, we need that. Our community has spoken, that's what I'm fighting for. Mental health curriculums inside our schools so our kids can grow up and help this community, the own community they live in. Also, a finance curriculum. That's some other things that's very important that I'm looking to push this year for finance, so that each kid can understand finance, booking, and how to do banking and everything else from the stock market on. Also, when COVID-19 hit, I was a support member that fought for every child to have food within this district. Not only our schools, but in the charter schools also, because these are all our children, so that everybody can eat and family won't be hungry, and that we still got kids that come to school hungry today and over the weekend that we try to support. I wrote a resolution for electric school buses because of the cancer ages that's on regular school buses now. So, of course, in that we should be receiving about 10 sometime this year from the last grant that was pushed through working with the district. Also, some of the things was I worked with over 100 community partners over the last 5 years. So this is some of the things that we have. I'm the board member that fought to keep a rehab center from being put behind Bennett High School and the Enterprise Charter School. That should not be there, and some of the things that we fought against, there's no place for it. I know those individuals have issues and problems in their lives, but behind high school isn't the place. And my time is up. Thank you so much.
So thank you again to all those that organized and facilitated this, to Ben for moderating, for everybody that stayed here till the end. I appreciate it, and I want to thank all the candidates up here too for having really a civil, healthy discussion. In this political world, we know that sometimes there's a very lack of decorum, and it's nice to just have this healthy discussion with everybody on the stage. I did not just wake up one day wanting to be a school board member. I grew into it when my first child was beginning pre-kindergarten. It was then that I co-founded the Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization to celebrate our Buffalo schools and our students, to foster relationships among staff, teachers, parents, and families. And we began some events such as the Family Night at the Zoo, Museum of Science. We fought matters regarding transportation. And we rallied in the streets with hundreds. Board Member Cozy was with me. That's how I became friends with her. To protect our schools, 4 of them from being closed: East, Lafayette, Bennett, and MLK. And we succeeded. Those schools are now thriving and excelling, producing better outcomes. We've partnered with NAACP to file an appeal with State Ed to remove a school board member. That in 2017, that board member was removed. I care deeply about this work, about governing, about improving student outcomes, working with my colleagues on the board to face the challenges that are in front of us. It's a struggle at times, but one that I feel I have a responsibility to be part of. I've become a better board member over time, adjusting to how I work with others and being more effective in producing better outcomes. We have a lot of work to do, and we need to ensure that all of our students have access, quality, opportunity in our education. I respectfully ask for your vote so that I can continue this important work. Thank you.
I spent the last 20 years of my life volunteering in the Buffalo community. Nearly 18 years on the board of directors for Ken Valley Neighborhood Housing, Laura J. Parks. The last 3 years as the board president. I'm going to go through a list of everything I've done and try to make it quick. 3 years as a president of district parent coordinating council. 2 years, the last 2 years as a parent liaison to School 156. 3 years as a parent facilitator for Da Vinci High School. I brought members of, I've been on members of the school-based management team at every school my children have attended, including Da Vinci, South Park, Olmsted, Discovery. I'm a wellness team member for 156 South Park. I have over 12 years of advocacy work for the students in the city of Buffalo. I'm a member of CPAC. I was a co-chair of CPAC. I'm still an active member. On the last 2 years I was co-chair. I worked with Dr. Williams Knight to get autism awareness in the district. So last year was the first year we celebrated autism awareness, and this April, the Honorable Superintendent announced publicly that the reason we celebrate autism awareness is because of Edward Swedow's advocacy. 3 years on the Say Yes Operating Committee, a member of the Athletic Committee for Parent Congress. I secured cornhole for all high schools in the district, and now this year all grammar schools will have cornhole. We had the first ever cornhole tournament at the Parent Summit. I'm advocating for cornhole to be a unified sport. I argued during COVID for the children to play basketball during COVID. And the last thing, I humbly ask everyone to please vote for Edward H. Splidow. November 5th, I'm third on the ballot. Thank you.
League of Women Voters, Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization, and all partnering groups. Thank you again for hosting this important candidate forum today. And everyone that came out, we really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to hear all of our ideas for our students and schools. Your vote counts for our students. Your vote impacts the future. The school board implements the policies and goals of the district, assesses outcomes, and adopts the over $1 billion budget. I'm ready for this responsibility. My lived experience, education, and skill set have all led me here today. I look forward to being in leadership, working in the best interest of students, families, teachers, and the community. I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn. I will always be available to have conversations and collaborate on shared goals. I'm invested in the future of our students and our city. I'm committed to equity, transparency, and building a more supportive education system for all. I will be honored to have your vote and serve our families on the Buffalo Board of Education. Thank you so much. Good night.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity to just sit here and speak to the work that I've done in the community. I have run a nonprofit agency for the last 8 years that is community-based and community-driven. I think that it is implicitly important that we support children. They are our most vulnerable population. I believe that if we do not support children now, we will pay in dividends in the future. And I believe that children deserve healthy starts. They deserve opportunities. They deserve resources to be allocated to them properly and fairly. I don't doubt that anybody up here is capable, and so I won't speak to if I am more capable or not, but I know that should I be elected on November 5th, I will come and work. I will ask the community questions. I will find out what you need. I will make sure that I use my voice as I've used it for the last 8 years going forward. I think that you all have a choice, and I'm just glad that we were able to educate you on our platforms in this moment. I think that on November 5th, please use your vote. And vote for what you believe in, and vote for what you believe your community needs and deserves. I will be humbly grateful for your vote, but I understand that you might have different alignment of value than I do, and I respect that wholeheartedly, but genuinely, I do believe that I would bring community building to this space, and I am humbly asking for your vote on November 5th. And I thank you again for staying and for listening and for giving really amazing questions that really allowed us to think. And I pray that we did you right as community. So, good night.
Take their phones out of the classroom.
Thank you for turning to the League of Women Voters for help with this evening's candidate forum. You guys just showed them applause, so I don't have to ask you to do that. Please remember to vote during the early voting period from October 26th through November 3rd at any of the 38 early voting locations in Erie County, or in person at your assigned polling place on November 5th. Here's a list of the 38 early voting locations. For early voting, it is not necessary, but it will make your experience easier if you bring along the card recently mailed to all the voters by the Board of Elections. There are flyers with all the addresses for early voting in the lobby. It's probably the time when I should have raised this one. Please make sure to vote for the two important propositions on the ballot as well. The League's vote411.org is the place to go for details about the election and responses from candidates for state and national office, as well as information about the propositions. Thank you for coming tonight, and we hope you enjoyed the school board candidate forum.